Yuma Frugalistas, and welcome. Today I have a special guest, and of course, all of my guests are special. Today's guest is someone who has a message about creating wealth beyond money. But first, I have a favour to ask of you. If you enjoy this podcast and find it useful for you, please pay it forward by sharing with a friend. And even better, please follow the Joyful Frugalista podcast. Emma Lagerlow is a wealth and mindset coach. She helps people create fulfilling, purpose-driven lives by aligning financial empowerment with self-worth, well-being, and time freedom. Emma is the author of Worthy and Wealthy, Discovering Abundance and Fulfillment Beyond Money. We've got matching copies, I know, thank you for sending it, which guides readers through the 5 pillars of a truly wealthy life. Welcome, Emma, and big congratulations on your book.
Thank you so much, Serena. It's so great to be here on your show, and I've long admired you as well. We were just talking before that I bought your book many, many years ago, and it's still sitting on my bookshelf, and obviously, yeah, it just spoke to me, and it was a great read. So, yeah, it's just lovely to be here.
Thank you so much. I'm always amazed as an author how many people, you do influence without realizing it. And I'm sure you're going to find the same with your book too. You meet these random people, and I'm not saying you're random, but you meet all sorts of people who suddenly go, oh, that really helped me at a time in my life where I needed that.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding with my book already, and it's just people just coming out of the woodwork and saying your book is amazing, or they're sharing it on their stories, and just knowing that you're having that little bit of impact on people to hopefully improve their lives is just such a heartwarming and fulfilling feeling.
Yeah, most definitely. And certainly when I was single, I think I was about a year or two out, I did work with a life coach who really helped. And actually, I really owe her the whole focus on the frugal journey because it wasn't even something that was on my radar at the time. If you'd asked me before I'd sort of worked with her, I was really heading in quite a different direction. And then she challenged me to stop and think about, what my purpose was and where I was headed. And I actually came up with this. It was quite a surprising detour, but a really good one.
Yeah, well, I'm so grateful you did, because I loved even like the joyful frugalista, because frugal can have these connotations about it, isn't it? That you're sort of squirreling things away and you're always looking for a good deal. But the joyful, I think that's just where I was like, oh, I feel like that's me. I'm joyful, I spend intentionally. I'm not looking for a good deal, but I'm not trying to cheat people or steal money away or not spend any money on anything. You don't want to be cheap, but yeah, you still, I think it's just about being sort of grounded in how you spend your money.
Yeah, exactly. And back in, like, I wrote it in 2018, it was published in early 2019. And back then, pre the pandemic, pre the cost of living crisis, I think a lot of people thought I was a bit nuts. Like, some people got it, but some people didn't. But I got a lot of questions, especially from the media, mainly about whether I was depriving my children or not. Spoiler alert, we're comfortably middle class, they do fine. Um, more than fine. And I never struggle paying for essentials like school camps or school supplies, which to me are the more important things in any case. But it is really interesting how things have changed so quickly.
Definitely. Well, yeah, the cost of living, I think, it's now just so top of mind. It means you can't ignore it because it is just everywhere you go. You're just seeing that you go to the grocery store and the prices have gone up. I mean, the price of fuel and all of those things. And so we're really forced, I think, to be a bit more conscious of where we're spending our money, because potentially it's not going as far as it was before anyway. So I think, yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I must have bought it, I think, before the pandemic. So I was already on, your sort of trajectory in some ways. But I do believe that now it's so much more prevalent that people are really being more conscious of where their money's going.
Yeah, most definitely. And you talk a lot in your book about money and actually living beyond just frugality and having greater richness. But let's start with a fictional character that you have, a lady called Jules. So what's Jules's story?
Yes, Jules. So everyone really loves Jules, and I'm so glad I did put her in there. I mean, I wanted to write a fiction book when I was like all for forever. And so I'm loving that I've sort of pulled a little bit of fiction into my book. But Jules, there's elements of me without a doubt in Jules, and me, I think, pre-pandemic Emma, in some ways, that was living sort of life on autopilot and just didn't have a great deal of awareness about who she really was, I suppose. And so was sort of living in, the lines of what society, expected. I need to be working and I need to be doing these sort of things, but feeling dissatisfied because not really following her true purpose, I suppose. And so it follows her feeling really just dissatisfied and not happy in general with life. There's a scene in the kitchen where one of her kids drops a glass of juice, and that's sort of like the catalyst where she lets out a primordial scream, and she's going to be late for a job that she hates anyway, and no one values her, and all of those things, and that's sort of like the catalyst, I think, for change, for her to start to look within to see who she really is, and then she can start to know what she really wants and how to get it. And so it follows her journey sort of along the pathway of exploring like the 5 pillars that I have of a truly wealthy life, which money is definitely really important, but it's not the be all and the end all, as you'll find out if you read the book.
No, I kind of related to that because she was in the Jules character was, going through a breakup and was single parenting, was managing all those things and wanting to still provide for her children in a meaningful way, but it was just burning herself out in the process.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, we can all resonate in some ways a little bit with Jules. And I think that's why people are really loving her, because they see a little bit of her in us, whether it is, just, not being happy at work, or, splitting up from a relationship, or yelling at your kids when you really don't want to be. And, why is this happening, and what can we do about it to head in a more positive direction?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I had an incident just even the night before last where my youngest went into the freezer and wasn't looking and, dropped something and it smashed all over the floor. It's shocking when that happens, but when you're calmer about it, you're in a calmer space to deal with that then too.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's why I wrote about it, because I have been in that situation where that has happened, and, blaming the kids, I'm going to be late, I'm going to lose my job, all of these things. And then hating on yourself for the rest of the day or the next few days because, you've acted irrationally. And then after I had implemented, some changes in my life of being more mindful and things like that, and a similar thing happened. And even today, I was making avocado toast and a bit of avocado flicked on my outfit, and and I was like, normally I'd be like, oh my God. And instead I was just, got a wipe out and cleaned it up, and I was like, wow, I really, I am less reactive than I used to be in life. And it doesn't help to be, to fly off the handle about anything. So I think it had sort of really supported me to sort of have this change of direction in my life, which I sort of channeled through Jules in my book.
Yeah, I can totally relate. And is avo toast, making it yourself, is that a bit of a frugal tip as well?
I was thinking about that when I was making it. I was thinking that that you would be proud of me that I was making my own avocado toast, because I do love it, but it's definitely cheaper than at the shop.
It's definitely cheaper at the shop. My youngest is the same one who dropped something the other day from the freezer, is massively into sourdough bread and baking. So yeah, definitely we save a lot on that. But I think this whole thing about, how we're reacting to things is a really good example, I guess, about scarcity and abundance mindset, and, how, being so fearful about not having money can make us do crazy things. I remember years ago, I just moved into the apartment we're in now, and I was worried about money, and so I wanted to rent out a room, which I did, but I was so worried about this that I was taking photos of the other bathroom to put online, and I dropped my phone and it cracked, and it cost several $100s to fix. So we all know what that's like, isn't it? So like, what is scarcity mindset? What is abundance mindset? How do we move through that?
Yeah, so it really is. It starts with awareness, I think, and it's really understanding what is like your mindset, because often these are beliefs that we've picked up from, our primary caregivers, and the way we watch things happen in life, and we just believe it's true. So your parents might have said money doesn't grow on trees, and that was always their excuse for when you asked for something, or you didn't even ask because you knew that was going to be the case. And so
Oh
then
yeah,
you
that's
have,
even worse.
yeah. And so then you grow, you grow up just thinking it's hard to get, money's hard to come by, it doesn't grow on trees. We've got to work, really hard for it. Or, we do squirrel it away because, we're worried that it is going to, we're not going to have enough, I think. And so we've really got to look at that and unpack that a little bit to say, oh, what are our beliefs? Because I mean, that's just one money mindset that one person might have, and you could have elements of all. But then there's, burying your head in the sand, where, you just think, oh well, it'll be what it'll be. But I feel like even under that, there's an underlying anxiety of, is there really enough to make things work, and that type of thing. And then if we
Yeah.
get to the abundance mindset, I think it's more about sort of taking that aligned action to trust that there is actually enough. And so when you start to unpack those scarcity mindsets and things like that, then you can really look at it with more clarity and say, is that really true? It doesn't, money, yeah, it doesn't grow on trees. Like, we have to go out and earn it or invest it. So then we earn money and things like that. And we're capable of being able to do that. And so then trusting in ourselves that we will find the money that we need to be able to live the way we want to, and hopefully that is in an abundant way. And yeah, then we will take those steps in to make that happen.
Look, I hear you with all of this. I still suffer from a bit of scarcity mindset
Mm.
myself, and you would think it doesn't matter, but it's like, oh, I better not invest because I might need, money, and if I invest and I lose it, it'll be bad. Or I have a friend of mine who had been homeless when she was a teenager, and she is still really driven by scarcity mindset, which is understandable. She had something very traumatic. But in her house for a long time, she actually had cans with dates on them. So she had left her job to have a startup, and she was so worried about not having enough food, she had dates for every month that she had enough cans to live on.
Wow. Wow, that's yeah, it is. And it really, I mean, a lot of it does, yeah, come back to even a trauma thing for some people, that if they have been through a trauma, and so then it's even unpacking, that and understanding it and looking at it with a clear sort of lens to realize like that happened then, but you're in such a different place now that, you go, it's, yeah, you don't need to hoard cans because you're going to be able to make it work.
Exactly, and you hold yourself back because you're too scared to say take new opportunities, take new jobs, do different things because you feel you've got to hoard those cans and manifest in all sorts of ways. Whether it's too much clutter at home, which I'm a bit guilty of, um, you know, not being able to take those risks because you don't think you can. So yeah, so getting into abundance mindset is very powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is really powerful. I think it really does come back to that, having sort of that innate confidence in ourselves that we are fully capable of creating that life that we really desire and feel like we deserve it as well. So, but often we don't even know what that life really is. Like, what does that look like as well? Like, what is an abundant life? What does that look like? If, even if you're listening now, like if you think about, oh, what does it mean? Does it mean, yeah, that you, like we were talking before about, the fire thing where, financial independence, retire early, is that abundant for you? Or is abundance actually living day to day with joy and meaning and having, great relationships with the people around you and having a sense of purpose? And what is that purpose? And so that really is the premise of my book, is rather than saying we're going to be happy then or we're going to feel abundant then, like when we retire or when we pay the mortgage off, that we actually are going to feel abundant like right now for all the blessings that we have in our life that we're creating for ourselves.
You write a lot in your book about purpose. This is obviously something that's really important with you and has really been helped you on your own journey. Yeah, so what does it mean to find purpose?
Yeah, so purpose I think can sometimes be a bit scary for people, or they might think, oh, it needs to be my career, and I hate my job, or I'm not, yeah, I'm not. This isn't really what I wanted to do. But I feel like purpose really can be an overarching sort of thing for your life, and I really love talking about ikigai in my book, and that's that it's about purpose, and it's sort of the thing that gets you up in the morning, or it's the thing that you're good at that you can be paid for, and that you love as well. And so it's sort of finding what is that thing that really does get you up in the morning. And for some people, it might be, providing a great life for their kids. And so they don't ultimately love their job, but they know, or, a great life for their family, so that they know that they can have family holidays and they do things on the weekends and they have a beautiful home. And so then they're happy to go off and do their job because it's filling their purpose of creating this beautiful life for themselves and for their family. Or it could be something bigger where, like for us, for instance, like writing a book or starting a business or having a mission to inspire other people by the things we're doing. It might be giving back to the community, or there's just so many different ways, and probably different sort of even elements within each person of what their ultimate purpose is. But I think can really support you to understand, what it is that drives you, that you're going to look back on at the end of your life and have that sense of accomplishment that you have, achieved whatever it is, whether it is having some great relationships with friends and family, or having helped people along the way, whatever it might be. I think having really a strong sense of purpose can really support us to just navigate the day to day more easily.
I totally agree, because once you set that, then you're like, well, everything that comes up, everything you're asked to do with your time, it's like, is this in alignment with this purpose? How does this mesh? Because I'm sure you're the same, busy mum, job, active in community. I get asked to do things a lot. So it's always like, is this in alignment with where I'm going? Is this in alignment with my purpose?
Yeah, definitely. And I think knowing our values really ties in with that as well. And I think that's also something that we often aren't even aware of. Like, what are sort of those guiding things within us that help us make us who we are, and that can help define your purpose as well. So I know for myself, it's creativity and connection, integrity, and so knowing that these things are important to me, I can always check in with those as well. And that's, in my book, there's an exercise of how to, uncover what your values are. I mean, for some people, it might be adventure, or it could be, leadership, or whatever it might be. But then that can help to inform your purpose, and then also help you to check in with when you are making a decision. If you do get asked to do something for the school and, think, oh, do I have the time? But then if you check in like, oh no, this actually aligns with my values and with my purpose. And so you feel less resentful, I guess, about, oh, I don't have time. You'll make time for these things. So I think, yeah, they go hand in hand and so important.
Yeah, most definitely. And it just helps. And you do find time for the things that are meaningful for you in that way.
Yeah. I've learned that over the past 4 years starting my business that, it used to be just, what are we watching on Netflix? And now, like last night even, I'm like, I'm sorry, I've got a deadline for an article, but then I love what I'm doing. And so it doesn't feel like I could much prefer to be doing that than sitting there and watching some inane Netflix show.
Yeah, I hear you. Although sometimes it is good to unwind, and I've learnt not to feel so guilty about taking time, particularly for myself. But I hear you. You can always find the time if it's really important for you. And on that, people do often joke that time is money, but you do in your book talk a little bit about time and about being, wealthy in terms of time. Is there like a return on investment in terms of things you do to save money, or how to value your time more?
I think it's a really great to have them both in harmony if you possibly can, is because there's definitely things we can do with our money to save time. Like automation is something that I'm so big on, and I think it's incredible even for our mental load to automate as much of our finances as we possibly can. But I do believe time is nearly the most precious commodity over money, because once it's spent, we really can't get it back. And I have a whole chapter on time in my book, and it's the final chapter, and it's so money is the fourth chapter, and it follows a butterfly analogy. And so you start out as a sluggish caterpillar moving through life, and then you really start to learn who you are. You go into the chrysalis. That's where you find your values and your purpose, and then well-being is also really important. That's chapter 3, and then chapter 4 is wings, where that's money. So it helps us to fly. And then flying is our time, and it really talks about, I love the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey and his time management matrix, where really understanding how we get dragged into these different quadrants. So, the urgent and important quadrant where, email pings or someone breaks their arm or whatever it is, and you get dragged into that. And of course, we have to do that. But we spend a lot of time in the not urgent but important, which it could be the ping of an email or the phone call, and you're having a conversation with a loved one, and oh, I've got to get this phone call, and so then you miss that opportunity, and that those sort of things where we're nurturing our meaningful relationships and participating in meaningful activities is really what gives our life that true wealth and that richness, and that I think that we'll look back on at the end of our days and be grateful that we have great relationships and strong relationships, and we've done things that we really enjoyed, whether that's travel or it's doing things for your well-being, like walks in nature or whatever it might be. I think that they're the things that really give us the richness of our life, yet we can often find ourselves spending a lot more time in doing the things that we're probably not really going to be thinking about at the end of the day, like responding to all those emails or answering these phone calls. So I think it's important to just look at it in a balanced way if we possibly can.
Yeah, so true. And yet, as busy people, it's hard not to, isn't it? Like, especially when everything seems to be urgent and it all piles up.
Yeah, without a doubt, it does. But I think it does come back to that, just, yeah, the awareness again, and just being that little bit of mindful about it. I mean, maybe people listening and it does happen, and you're in the kitchen and your kid's telling you about their day or something, and then, oh, I've just got to check this email. Maybe just stop for 1 second, and you could probably delay that for 2 minutes, have your conversation, and then go to it rather than cutting people off, or yeah, not indulging ourselves in the things that are really going to make our lives better.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you miss that opportunity where the next step is then they feel safe. They say to you, well, actually, this is happening at school, or actually, I'm thinking of doing this as a career, or actually something really significant. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, because then they start to share those things, and you can, particularly with problems and issues, you can get on top of them early. If you start to sense that, a friendship group might not be working for them, or there's some issues there, because you're listening and you're present.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, then that is what strengthens our relationships. Because I guess if our kids think that our heads are always in our phones or we're always too busy, then they will get to the point where they don't even bother coming to us. And that's where you start to drift. And yeah, I think having strong relationships with our kids or, our partners and all of that is so important for our lives.
Yeah, most definitely. And I now have one final question, which is, do you have a frugalista tip?
Yes, I liked this question. And so I really wanted to go back to really that money mindset and how important I think it is for us to know what it is that drives us when it comes to our money decisions, because that can really support us then to know how we do operate around money and can to be more mindful around money. And so whether it is whether we do believe we have a scarcity money mindset, or we bury our head in the sand, or maybe we think that money is the root of all evil, and so we're energetically rejecting it. And I think once we have a little bit of an understanding of that, we can unpack it, and then we will approach money in such a different way when we feel more clear and it's more reality. But then I did have a quick practical tip, and I just love talking about buying groceries online, and I think it is just the best thing that's ever happened to us, to be able to save money, to save our waistline, because we're not in the shops when we're hungry and all those new things are jumping out at us, and we can also save time because we're also not in the shops doing all that. And so I think buying groceries online is one of the best things ever. Like, you stand in your kitchen, you can do an inventory, so you're not double buying the things that you think, oh, do I have that? And then you get home, you've got 3 bottles of chili sauce or whatever it might be. So that is my practical tip. And then my mindful tip is really understand what your money mindset is.
Fabulous. And on the practical tip, do you combine it with any other things such as, membership deals, extra points? How do
Yes.
you make that kind of work for you? Even how do you make
Yes.
that stretch?
Yeah, so I definitely do. So, I mean, we're in Australia here, so we all know Coles. And so that's where, so I'm Flybuys. So I use my Flybuys. And I was actually before, used just putting those points onto my groceries every now and again, just to go, oh, well, it hasn't cost as much now. But at the moment, I'm saving for a new iPhone. And so but I'm saving with flyby points, and I'm nearly there, so I'm pretty excited about that. So I try and make that work. But then even when you're on the Coles app, there's often, if you go to the home screen, then sometimes they have a little code and you can get $15 off, or yeah, so it's really good to be able to, yeah, just to be able to save money. And when you're on the app, you can look for the savings as well as, so, you think, oh, that's on sale. I'm going to buy three of those this week rather than, and then you don't need to buy them. And you can just see it so clearly. Whereas I think sometimes at the grocery store, it's just all coming at you. And oh, I just hate going to the grocery store.
I just
Aldi,
want
actually, I go to Aldi. I don't mind Aldi, but I couldn't do Aldi for more for the time now that I feel like time is so precious that I save time. So I just pop into Aldi for the top up. But yeah, I go to Coles for the groceries.
but I just wanted to go back.
Hmm.
So you're getting points from Flybys and you nearly have enough to buy an iPhone.
Yes,
So
yes,
you can get an iPhone pretty much for free from your shopping.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Fabulous.
I know it is pretty fabulous. I do think about that, and I think if also if we didn't, because there's so many people that do like, oh, what else? I can't be bothered doing that, and they're missing out on a free iPhone or whatever it might be. I mean, prior to that, it was always I'd feel good if I spent a bit too much money, and I'm like, oh well, I'll put those flybys onto my groceries this week. But yeah, I've just had this commitment, so it's probably taken about a year of thinking about wanting a new phone and just watching them tick up, tick up, tick up, and it's pretty much there. So it's good just from that being intentional about it. So I'm happy and grateful.
Fabulous. So now your book, Worthy and Wealthy, Discovering Abundance and Fulfillment Beyond Money, out now. You can see I've got lots of post-it notes on, lots of things resonated for me, in all good bookstores and online.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Serena. It really has been great conversation. I just love how you just never know where it's going to go and what actually people take out of my book as well. So, and I'm really enjoying that people that really love talking about money, uh, finding it really valuable as well, because I think it is about not just fixating on money. True wealth is really about all those pillars that I talk about in my book.
Yeah, definitely. It's deeper than that. Thank you so
Mm.
much.
Thanks, Serena. Bye, everyone.